Hello and welcome to the Hill Gardens. My name is Jason and this is episode 3 in our Garden Gab series. I am one of the co-owners here of the Hill Gardens, and today we're going to be talking about the right time to be starting your seeds if you're going to start them indoors, okay, or when you're going to start planting them in your yard. Things that are cold tolerant can typically take a light freeze down to about 28, 26 degrees. So that'd be things like your spinaches. We've had ice and snow around our spinach before in the fall with our first frost date, and we harvested off that for like 3 weeks. Lettuce, same thing. Things of that nature can take a light frost. Your Brussels sprouts, your cabbage, your broccolis, all your brassicas. So we need to determine first when's our first frost date and our last frost date. Now, since it is winter and we are gearing up for spring, we've had very little snow in our yard, then we need to look to see when our last frost date is going to be. Now, I know typically most of our stuff here, I don't put out until June 2nd because we have had a frost on June 1st before. We've even had some later than that, and those I take preventive measures, which we'll look at in June as we get closer to, do we have more frost in June than normal, and if so, how do we protect our plants? But what I'm going to show you today is I have my tablet here, and if you look, there's a website out there for 2024 first and last frost dates, and that is from the Farmer's Almanac, which is a great resource. All you do is go into whatever search engine you use. For me, it was Google. I typed in last frost date, selected the one for the Farmer's Almanac, and you start by adding your zip code right here. And so I'm going to pop in our zip code really quick. And it's come up with our location, Fort Fairfield, Maine. And down here, you are going to see nearest climate station, Aroostook, okay? And then it says our altitude, so it tells us how far above sea level we are, which is really immaterial when it comes to gardening. Our last spring frost, here it says June 2nd, which is typical for us. It used to be May 15th. However, in the more recent years, especially since 2020, we've been getting a frost June 1st. So they consider our last frost date June 2nd. So it's that week that we put all our warm weather crops in the garden. So from May 15th to June 1st, we'll be putting in our brassicas, our onions, our spinaches, our lettuce, things of that nature. And then after June 2nd, we'll be putting in our tomatoes, our peppers. We'll be direct sowing some carrots, some beets, some corn, things of that nature. So this also tells us our growing season is 105 days. So that means that from June 2nd to September 16th, is the window that we have for our best growing season. Some years it gets better than that. Some years it's less than that. So when you determine what you're going to be growing and when, then you need that information. So if you want to grow something that takes, say, 120 or 180 days, and your growing season is, say, 85 days, not really recommended unless you're going to do it in a greenhouse, or you're going to put hoops and plastic over your beds or over your containers or over your crops, whatever you're doing, to protect them from those cold temperatures. So on a pack of seeds, it will tell you also that, now this is a brassica, this is broccoli, and this can take a light frost down to about 26 degrees. So if you look on the back of any seed packet, it'll have some important information for you. This one says plant in plug trays 3 to 4 weeks before transplanting. Now, since it can take a frost, that could be May 1st, it could be April 1st. Typically, we'll put these out in the middle of May, so the second week or third week of April, we will start these in our seed trays. They'll take a week to harden off outside to get acclimatized from going from a 72-degree house into a 50, 60, 70-degree weather, depending on what May is going to be like. And then once they have that week of hardening off, which we'll get into in May, then they'll go on the ground and they'll go from there. Now, this does say that it'll tell you how far apart to plant your plants. And that's if you're doing rows in ground, not if you're doing raised beds or containers, things of that nature. That information really doesn't apply. That was geared towards when people used to do rows and plant their gardens in ground, such as my paternal grandmother did, such as my father did, such as we tried here. But since we have a groundhog on the property that we let just roam free, then we really can't do in ground. That's why we do raised beds with a fence. So for the peppers are typically 8 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. So we start those the first week of March. Onions, same thing, first week of March. We do tomatoes and basically tomatoes the first week of April. And then on the first week of May, we do things such as our beets, peas, things of that nature. Or we have a small pop-up greenhouse that we're going to use that's going to go in the front yard next to the garden. And we'll do our sunflowers in there. We'll do our flowers in there. Stuff that can take a little bit of wear and tear during the day. We're going to open the door to the garden, and then at night we'll close it down probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock to help hold that heat in so it'll survive through the night. And then we're also going to direct sow onions in the garden this year. And then all the rest of our direct seeding will be the first week of June, so we can get past that frost. So sit down with a calendar, sit down with a pad of paper, write down what you're going to grow on a pad of paper, and look at your seed packets and make 3 columns. Put 8 to 12 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, which are your cucumbers, direct sowing, onions, brassicas, things of that nature. And then write those dates as to when they are, looking on the calendar, counting back from that last frost date, which we saw on here was June 2nd. So I would get out a calendar, I would go to June 2nd, and I would count back 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, put a mark. 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, put a mark. 7, 8 weeks, put a mark, etc. all the way to 12. And I'll let you know when to start things. We currently have onions, peppers, asparagus from seed, celery, and peppers, our bell peppers, going in our upstairs grow room. And we'll talk about starting your seeds indoors in the next episode of the Garden Gab, which will be episode 4. And I do thank you for your time today. I hope I've given you some information as to when to start your seeds after you've decided what you're going to grow. And I thank you for your time. And remember to keep your food spicy, your thumb green, and I'll talk to you later. Have a fantastic day.